Good evening, welcome to The Buck Stops Here. I'm Vishnu Shom, and on the program this evening, stung by the decision of the senior advocate Gopal Subramanium to turn down the offer to be a Supreme Court judge after the government raised objections, the Chief Justice of India hits out at the executive and goes to the extent of saying, if the judiciary's independence is compromised, I won't hold office even for a second. But there was also criticism of Gopal Subramaniam for going public with his letter to the Chief Justice at a time when he was out of the country. Tonight, the standoff between the judiciary and the executive, we ask, is it time for the government to break its silence on why Gopal Subramaniam was not appropriate as a Supreme Court judge? Also coming up on this program, if you scored 95% in your Class 12 board exams, you're pretty much history as far as admissions to several colleges at Delhi University are concerned. With cutoffs now at a ridiculous 100% in some courses, we ask, has the system failed the lakhs of students looking to get an education at India's best colleges? I'll be joined by a panel of some of India's finest educators, as also students seeking admission. But let's quickly move on now to our top story, and this is news which has come in just the last couple of hours. The Chief Justice of India attacking the government for segregating Gopal Subramaniam, the senior advocate's name, in a list of prospective judges. Let's bring you some details of what exactly the Chief Justice, Justice Lodha, had to say. He's attacked the government for segregating Gopal Subramaniam without the Chief Justice of India's consent, in other words, his consent, and in a casual manner. The Chief Justice says segregation was unilaterally done by the executive without my knowledge or consent. The appointment to a high constitutional position has been dealt with in a casual manner. The Chief Justice says, as far as the letter of Gopal Subramaniam is concerned, the independence of the judiciary cannot be allowed to be compromised. He also says, if the judiciary's independence has been compromised, I won't hold office even for a second. Very, very strong words over there by the Chief Justice of India. Joining us now to debate this with me in the studio, the BJP leader Subramaniam Swamy. Thanks very much for being with us. The Congress Rajya Sabha MP Abhishek Manu Singhvi also joins us, and the former Attorney General Solicitor General with us on the show as well. So let me come to you first. It's very rare for the Chief Justice of India to make remarks as strong as this. I think his strongest remark was, if the judiciary's independence is compromised, I will not hold office even for a second. He's clearly upset at what happened and the reasons why Gopal Subramaniam was not allowed to go through by the government.
Well, he's one of our finest judges, the present Chief Justice. He's given already very good judgments. And I certainly sincerely hope that there is no confrontation between the judiciary and the government. I was law minister at a time, that is 1991 period, when the politician decided who would be the judge. In fact, you could consult the Chief Justice, you need not even consult the Chief Justice, that was the position. That was misused, and therefore the Supreme Court through a PIL changed that to the other extreme, where more or less the collegium of judges would decide and the politicians would have very little say. But there is a scope for say. Now, on the question of Mr. Subramaniam, I've known him for a long time. He's perhaps one of the most well-read persons, but I had a view that for our government he is not a fit person to be a judge. Although I was not in the decision making, but I'm giving you my view why I'm defending the BJP government on this. The way he conducted himself on that Ram Setu Samudram project, where he insisted on bringing an affidavit which was ridiculous, where the religious sentiments were hurt, and that surprisingly because he is himself a very religious person.
Yes.
So now the government had a right to say that a particular person, we don't want him as a judge.
Okay, let me just get a quick reaction to what you are saying. Dr. Singhvi, if you heard Subramaniam Swamy, he makes the point, he was not appropriate for us. He was not right for the BJP government. Isn't that the central fear over here, that the government believes it's in a position to decide who's a good judge and who's a bad judge?
Look, let me make it clear. I entirely agree with the first sentence of Dr. Swamy. The Chief Justice is a judge of outstanding ability, integrity and excellence. I obviously don't agree with the rest of what he has said. The reason is that this is one of the worst legal and political results. Legally, it is a very serious assault on the independence of the judiciary because the government is seeking to select, decide who will be a judge or not. There is no way in which a person can be said to have been good or bad as far as the government is concerned. Gopal has made only one small mistake. He is an outstanding advocate, deserves fully to be appointed, and it is very deplorable that he is not being appointed, but he made one small mistake. He should have waited at least till today or tomorrow before he sent in his irrevocable withdrawal. Because I have no doubt that the institution could be only salvaged if the Honorable Chief Justice of India and his colleagues would have resent the endorsement. The reason I also say this very briefly is that the reasons given for not appointing Mr. Subramaniam are almost puerile. The IB and the CBI have nothing. I can entirely understand and respect Dr. Swamy's own view about Setu Samudram. By the way, that is not the view given in the government exchanges. That I can understand. He has a different view, I have a different view. But the IB and the CBI has said nothing remotely culpable. There are cases, as we know, of judicial corruption of a much more serious kind of sitting judges. Any charge not worth the name has been made against Gopal Subramaniam. And if you can carry this principle further, it bodes very badly for our system, because it is obvious that his only cardinal sin was to give, into the best of his judgment and opinion, and not as a politician, but as an amicus, a person who is appointed by the court. Any self-respecting lawyer will never refuse an amicus post, to give a view against Mr. Modi. Now, merely because he gives a view against Mr. Modi, the former law minister, Mr. Jaitley, cannot write against him, and that cannot become a basis for taking action of this kind when the Chief Justice and his colleagues have sent it. At the very least, it should have awaited a reconsideration and a re-endorsement.
Dr. Singhvi,
I do accept that Gopal acted slightly hastily.
We'll discuss whether that was an indiscretion. But the central argument, one of the arguments made over there, is that he had acted against Amit Shah, he had acted against Mr. Modi, when he actually, in that letter to the Chief Justice, said that in fact I had not acted against Amit Shah. I had in fact tried to ensure that his liberty was protected.
Obviously.
Well, so far
he had not, but the reason for not appointing him is that.
So far we have no authoritative statement as to why the government opposed. And he's quite right, Singhvi is quite right. This is a reason that they are not using. This is the only reason I can think of being against him. But let me say, first of all, we are not saying who should be the judge. But I think a government of the day has a right to say who should not be the judge. We are not saying
aren't you
that.
Deciding?
No,
These
no,
three people are okay, this one is not.
No. That is a technical flaw on the part of the President of India. He ought to have sent the whole list back, and to have selected was not in keeping with the scheme of things. That's a technical error that has been committed, and the President has to give an explanation, or the Secretary has to give an explanation why they did it. Now the issue is, does the government of the day have a say in the selection of a judge? Not proposing the name, but in rejecting. We can't go from one extreme to another. Do you think that the judges don't have bar jealousies, loyalties, prejudices? There are a lot of people who have complained that they were bypassed because a judge didn't like him, or didn't like his comments, or the method of his argument. So everyone, this is a system which is based on checks and balances. And I think at some stage, occasionally, a government should have a right to say, no, we don't want him.
Mr. Surabji, do you agree with that the government needs to have some sort of role in deciding who is or is not an appropriate judge for the Supreme Court?
Well, under the law, existing law, the government has this limited right to send the recommendation back to the collegium with its reasons. But ultimately, it is for the collegium to decide whether, after looking at the grounds for which the appointment is registered, whether they should reiterate it or reaffirm it. I'm very sorry to say, Gopal Subramanium was my first junior, but what Dr. Singhvi says, start mistake, he made a Himalayan mistake. Why did he have to be impatient? Why didn't wait for the Chief Justice to return to India? If he withdraws his candidature, then where's the question of the Supreme Court even reaffirming and saying we continue with this recommendation? I think that was a very serious mistake, but I don't know why we became so impatient. And besides, Dr. Swami is not quite correct in saying the government has a right to do it. No, it hasn't. It has a right to point out matters which may not be within the knowledge or the cognizance of the collegium. But even after that, under the law as it exists, you may change it if you like, the collegium has the last word. They may agree with the reasons given for non-appointment, or they may reaffirm. But here, the Chief Justice and collegium didn't have a chance. That was preempted by Gopal's withdrawal. That, I think, was a serious mistake on his part.
Dr. Singhvi, what is the legality, do you believe, of the decision which has been taken? Since it's not gone back to the collegium, how does it stand?
Unfortunately, yes. According to me, it would be a very serious inroad into the very concept of independence in the way and the manner the government has acted, and let me say the blame lies squarely at the government's plate. But unfortunately, as I said in the beginning, Gopal has made the issue virtually unreviewable. He has reacted a little too hastily, and thereafter he has been steadfast in not reconsidering his withdrawal. If he does not withdraw his withdrawal, there is no question of any legal challenge. One. Two, I in fact am a staunch proponent of reversing and restoring the old system of a non-collegium, the pre-91, in a different form by the National Judicial Council. So in that sense, possibly I would agree with Dr. Swami. But that is no relevance to Gopal's case. Today there is a system in place, and that system has never had this kind of a, you see, it has besmirched the entire system. It has shown that people of far, far lesser merit are judges, as I am sure Dr. Swami in fairness will concede himself, than Gopal's merit. And if you do this to deserving people, and remember, you are depriving of Chief Justice of India, then you will not have self-respecting, outstanding, good people being willing to be considered. And I have found no reason, and we all understand, we all read between the lines. Nobody can say there's a reason other than the fact that he had the misfortune to accept a brief as amicus, which all of us do at any point of time, and gave his free and frank views. I mean, you have to have magnanimity in politics. You need to have large-heartedness.
These are just surmises. We don't know the authoritative reason why the government decided to go against him. Huh?
Isn't that shocking?
Dr. Swami, in your heart and my heart, you know.
By heart, I know that there was one very prominent Congress person who had been a minister in the previous government, who was also supporting us in opposing Gopal Subramanium. I am ready to name him if you like.
Could be.
So let's not make it a political issue. I am saying that the government has not made an authoritative statement. Maybe that reasons were given to the Chief Justice. The Supreme Court make it open. I am giving a reason that I have, and I agree with it that that's this should have been sent back. And if the collegium sent it again, then we should lump it and go ahead with it. But there has been a procedural error, no question about it. But I have a right to object to a nominee.
Mr. Surabji, you're running out of time, but I must ask you this: the fact that he's been cleared by the IB, that he's been cleared by all the agencies, there is no file on this man, and yet we still don't know, and we don't know what we're talking about. Why would a government not go on record to say this man is unfit for this job and these are the reasons? Isn't it incumbent on the government to spell this out? The law minister is entirely silent on this.
No, but I suppose reasons have been given about us having a meeting with Raja's advocate and others. But I want to point out one thing, please. Rohinton Nariman, whose appointment has been approved and has gone through, he had appeared in a case in Gujarat Lokayut case where he made sweeping observations against Narendra Modi. He was very scathing in his attack on Gujarat government. But that didn't come in his way. The government didn't propose him on that reason. So please don't say that because what he said in that Sharabuddin case with Marcus Cure, that came in his way. I'm giving you the example. I was there, and Rohindra Nariwal very forcefully attacked the Gujarat government and in particular Narendra Modi. But did that come in his way? Government didn't hold that against him. Please remember that.
All right, fair enough, sir. But then we still, bottom line, we still don't know the reasons. Because, sir, when Gopal Subramaniam argues that a lot of the reasons which have been doing the rounds of the media are puerile, he has a point. One of the reasons doing the rounds is that he had sought the help of a lobbyist in getting a swimming pool membership at a particular hotel. I mean, it's absurd. It's absurd. I mean, that was one of the reasons doing the rounds. And we still don't know. We do know that there is no IB file against him. There is no intelligence, there is no file against him. This man has been turned down, and we can only surmise that it was the Sohrabuddin case. In fact, in connection with that case, he said he'd actually tried to ensure that the liberty of Amit Shah is protected. He spelt it out in that letter to the Chief Justice. So he doesn't know the reasons either, it seems.
Look,
but why did Gopal withdraw?
Well, I asked him that question. I asked him that question, sir, and he told us in his interview quite clearly that the reason he withdrew was because he didn't want to start a term as a judge in the Supreme Court when there were question marks being asked by the government of him. There were questions being asked by the government of him. That was his reason. I asked him that question. This was his answer, sir.
Yeah. Hello. Can you?
Yes, Dr. Singhvi. Dr. Singhvi has a point. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying there is absolutely no doubt, and I started by saying that he has made a blunder by withdrawing too soon. I also have no doubt, especially in the light of the statement and in the nature of the facts on which he was refused, that there would have been a re-endorsement had Gopal left that door open. But obviously that is now in the realm of speculation.
But he's taken the higher moral ground.
Let me say about Rohingya Nariman. No, well, even if that be, he could have taken the same ground tomorrow.
Okay.
Nothing prevented him from taking the ground on 2nd, 3rd or 4th of July.
Okay.
You had to give a chance to the collegium to meet. You see, the problem is that he didn't give a chance to the collegium to meet. That is the dilemma which the Chief Justice would face naturally. Chief Justice can't just shoot off a response without having a collegium meeting. Now on 28th, 29th, 30th, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, what he has said on the moral ground is absolutely perhaps right, and he could have said the same thing on 3rd of July or 4th of July. But the point is, that's one point. The second point is that Rohingya Nariman, who is an outstanding counsel, a colleague of mine earlier, thank God that he is not being punished. I was in that case for another party in the same case. But please don't make the cardinal mistake that because he argued that case and has been allowed to go through, that is not the reason for Gopal. There could be many other reasons why.
We still don't know what these reasons
are in the same light.
Why
but certainly, and we know that, we at the bar, we understand that.
Okay.
But there is no doubt in my mind that that is the only reason. Okay. And I am speaking more as a lawyer than anything else.
Nonsense. Okay, last couple of comments, Mr. Sorabji, and then Mr. Swami. Go ahead, Mr. Sorabji.
Well, I think this what leads us to remember suspicion. Dr. Singhvi has no doubt. The whole thing is, where would have been the attack on the independence of the judiciary if Gopal had waited and allowed the collegium to consider the matter after looking at the IB report or whatever it is, and they would have reaffirmed it.
So all this would have been
avoided if you were little.
So what's done is done. Mr. Sorabji, where does this leave us now? I mean, do you see this as a clash between the judiciary and the executive? Where does this leave us now?
No. I don't think so. The only mistake, if at all the Chief Justice was justified the criticism, they should not have segregated Gopal's case. What really leaves us is we must really think of replacing the collegium system with a good commission, National Commission for Judicial Appointments, which should be properly manned. That's the ultimate answer.
All right. Dr. Swami, last word.
Well, I think there was never any doubt about Gopal's ability to be a judge. The issue was whether he has got the temperament for a judge, and that is a subjective satisfaction. I would say that his behavior after the whole thing and his hasty resignation would show that he is temperamentally unfit to be a judge.
All right, fair enough. I'd like to thank all of you for joining us one way or the other it could be called a battle in a sense between the judiciary and the executive, but we are also told that this government remains firm, that as far as they are concerned, there's nothing that they can really do about it. Gopal Subramaniam is out. He is not going to be a judge of the Supreme Court of India. I'd like to thank you very much for joining us.